It's time for another Dice Tower review with Zee Garcia.
Hey everybody, I'm continuing my look at the Pack-O game line of games here. These tiny little packages, each one looking like a pack of gum, has a whole game in there. Now, this is the second set, Pack-O Game 2, from the same designer. He made 8 games some time ago. Well, he's come back, he's made 8 more games, and we're going to be taking a look at them. I'm going to be looking specifically at Jim right here, which right away, I love the packaging on this one. I got to say, it's very clever design. Right on the box, looks like a locker. Very cool. This one is a drafting and sort of placement game in which you're going to be grabbing, drafting the kids, some kids in class, in school, and then assigning them to different sporting activities like football and basketball, and there's a tug-of-war event, weightlifting event, things like that. And you're going to try to get the most victory points for assigning the right kids to the right events and win. All right, I'm going to give you a look at how this works. We'll come on back. I'll tell you what I thought of it. I'm also going to rank this one against all the other ones just for my own edification. I'll tell you where I think it lands in the line here, which ones are the best ones and which ones are the not so good ones. And I'm also going to rank them against all the other original 8 just to see where it falls. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at Jim. The game is played in 2 stages. During the first stage, which is what I have set up here, you are going to be drafting the kids, and then during the second stage, you'll be assigning them to the different activities, the different sports, and trying to get the highest score at the end of the game. So during this first part, you shuffle them, flip over 12, which is half the deck. You line these up, and then players will go back and forth taking the kids and just building a hand of the characters with these, okay? So for example, on my turn, I might take this one right here, and then it's my opponent's turn. They could take that one, put that in their hand, back to me, and so on, okay? Until these 12 are gone, then we'll flip over the next 12 and do it again. You will draft all the cards. However, during this phase, if one of the players takes a brat, and you can tell the brat because they have 2 values, but the second value is 0. Also, they kind of look bratty. So if they take one, they're going to be allowed to manipulate these events. Now, all these events are right now in play, but during the second stage, we're only going to be fighting over 4 of them, the 4 that have been upvoted the most. And when you take a brat, you get 2 clicks to move these up. Now, you can spend those on 2 different activities. So say 1 click here, 1 click here. Those 2 are definitely in now, well, as of right now. Or you can spend both clicks on the same thing. Say this up twice, all right? And so at the end of both drafts, once all 24 cards have been gone, these might have moved up, I don't know, let's say like so, all right? And then the 4 most popular events are in play. So this one, this one, this one, the other 3 are tied. You give priority to whatever is at the top, randomly selected to be near the top. And so these 2 events in this case would be out. You flip them over to become coaches, and then these 4 are lined up in the center of the table, and you begin the second stage of the game. At this point, of course, each player, assuming you're playing with only 2, would have a hand of 12 characters, of 12 kids, and you take turns back and forth assigning them to these spots. Each location can have 3 kits assigned to it, like this, per side. As you're doing this, the first thing you do is, of course, select a kit and play. So let me do that now. Let's see. I'm going to select her, Felicia. I'm going to play her right there. First thing you do is you play a kit. Second thing you may do, is trigger the action where you played them, or one of the actions one of the events that they are good at. You can trigger the corresponding action, assuming it's in play. So I would play her, and then I could do the event, and that's it. If I play a brat, let's say I'm going to play, let's pick a different one. So I play a brat there, then after I've chosen or not to do the event, I can move a coach in play. I can place a coach somewhere at an event. I like to put them face sideways across the bottom of the event. What that means is that cannot be messed with by your opponents. They can't swap characters out. They cannot do any switcheroo type activities. So it's protected. You can still play in there, but you're protected from shenanigans. And that's basically it. Once all the characters have been played out, this will in fact be completely filled. You count up the matching points per event. You add all of that up and you figure out who the winner is. So let me show you what these events are. And that will be it. That'll give you a good idea of how the game operates. All right, so let's start over here. Swap two kids basically means you can swap one from one side, one from the other. They replace each other. You can force a kid, which means you pluck a card from your opponent's hand, and they have to play that one next. Lift any kid is take one from the table, put it in your hand, replace it with another one from your hand. Pick a kid means pluck a card from your opponent's hand and give them anything you want back from your own hand. Move a kid, move it from one place to another, but the same side of the table. Obviously, with all of these, or just about all of them, you can mess with your opponent, okay? And then switch two kids. It's sort of like this one, but instead of just moving one, you're in fact switching two, again, from the same side. That's it. That is how you play Jim. First thing I'll say about this one is I think it has it's the one that feels the biggest, the largest, the most sort of game in here. It probably has the most artwork in the whole game, in the whole line, rather. And I really like the look of this one. The artwork's fantastic. Theme's great. Packaging's great. Really like all of that. And it feels like a bigger game than the tiny little box would lead you to believe. All the other ones here feel a little smaller. Some of them, have that feeling of, wow, all this fits in that little box. Jim, though, gives you that feeling the most, gives me that feeling the most anyway. I like the two phases for the game. The drafting is certainly very fun and interesting, and then the playing of the kids out to the events is also neat and interesting, but my main issue with it, which is not a huge problem, I don't dislike this one, I wouldn't say I do, but my one niggling issue with it is that I feel the second half of the game, with all the special powers you can trigger, has a lot of shifting stuff around. The control doesn't feel like it's there very much. You can playing something out, triggering some event, and nothing feels safe. I know the coaches are in play, and you can sort of lock something down, but there's a lot of chaos going on during that second half, which makes me feel a little worse about the first half, because I went through the trouble of drafting these kids, and now you can just play another kid somewhere and pick mine up off the board, and now it's in your hand. And you can just switch it and place it on your side and all those things. And those things happen a lot. There's not a couple of powers. Every kid potentially can trigger 3 of those powers out there. That's a lot of chaos. It's a little bit of musical chairs with these events for the kids. And I'm not sure I'm quite on board with that. I kind of want a little more control during that second half of the game, and I don't really get it. Now, you can play this with teams. You can play 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3. I think that's okay. I do prefer 1 versus 1. I just have more of the options, and I think that's fine. The game's about 15, 20 minutes, so having more options is good in a game that's that short. But yeah, I just want a little more control during the second half of the game. Having said all that, I do enjoy it. It's this one for me among all of these games. There are 8. This is my number 5. So somewhere in the middle of the pack. It certainly, again, gets points for the original theme, the look, the packaging, all those things. And it feels pretty neat and different from the other ones, Among the entire set, all 16 games, Jim is number 9. Again, about the middle of the pack. And this is pretty good for the middle of the pack, I have to say. So overall, I certainly consider the project, the Packle Game set of games, to lean towards the strong side. They are clever, they are interesting, they are original, and if this one speaks to you, then I would certainly recommend it. It's one of the ones I think I am going to be hanging on to because it's just clever, and there is a nice amount here. And if I can go into it thinking, yeah, I don't really feel like I have a lot of control, but that's okay. Let's see how this plays out. then I can sit down and enjoy this one. That is Jim. I do recommend it. Look into it.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.